Afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to This Podcast is for Nerds with our light chocolate host, Calvin Tuttle, and our dark chocolate host, Zach Van Buren.
Did you say light chocolate host?
I did.
I like that.
I don't rehearse these. By the time I'm halfway in, I'm like, ooh.
Let's see where this ends up.
Gotta keep going.
All right. Well, welcome to episode 3 of This Podcast is for Nerds. So when we're recording this, we're banking these because we're still in the midst of the coronavirus stuff. So we're about a week in now, I think.
Just about,
for quarantine. Yeah. So how are you doing today?
Pretty good. I've actually focused on actually making a full-time schedule for when I'm at home, including eating, because just like all of the COVID memes where it says, hey, I've been home for 4 days and I've eaten 2 weeks worth of food. People are stress eating. I was stress eating a little bit and going, ooh, I need to chill. I'm not as active as I would be when I'm out running around. So,
right.
I'm taking my calorie intake way lower than it normally would be.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think a schedule is really important because it just feels like every day is the same day. And I've like totally lost track of what day. Like I guess today is Sunday, and I have to go to work tomorrow. I guess, which is just downstairs. So that's really no different than any other day.
That is the biggest thing I ran into. I woke up today and was trying to call to pay a bill, and it kept like not allowing me to speak to someone, and I was like, that's really weird. I was like, oh, today's Sunday. That's why. That's bad.
Yeah, so it's still kind of a mess here. We hope you're doing well when this comes out. Hopefully things have improved a little bit. I checked this morning. I guess we're at about 800 cases in Michigan, so it's pretty alarming. I think we're like the third highest in the country right now.
Either we're the third highest in the country. I know the U.S. itself is third highest as far as confirmed cases. And considering the U.S.'s size, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And, how many people actually can get tested per area, per availability of tests even. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah, it's improving every day, I think, as far as availability, but still really scary stuff. Hope you stay safe out there.
Absolutely. Please stay safe. Continue to wash your hands. Continue practicing social distancing. And really just keep finding positive outlets for all the negativity and misinformation that's out there right now. That's part of the reason why we're continuing to do this. This is our positive outlet for the madness.
Yeah, get a hobby, man. Do something to keep your mind active. Do some reading. There's tons of good books out there. There's tons of good TV shows to be watching. And films, which I think is what we're going to be discussing today.
Absolutely.
So as was teased in episode 2, this week's discussion is going to be about fan influence in films. And I think this episode's premise was kind of precipitated off of the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie that just came out. Now, Zach, have you seen the movie?
I have not seen the movie. Is the movie actually out?
Yeah, it did come out. So it was originally scheduled to come out in 2019, and then there was, without spoiling it, there was some fan reactions to the trailers, and it ended up getting pushed out to February. Actually, it came out on Valentine's Day of 2020. The perfect romantic film to watch with your partner. Highly recommend it. I've not seen it, so I can't really speak to it. But I think it's just kind of an interesting thing that's happening right now is fan reactions to media film that is like completely impacting the production. And so yeah, I thought we'd start with Sonic, and then maybe we can go over some of the other movies that have been impacted. And I just want to give a shout out to the visual design company. I think it was Blur Studio. They worked a bunch of overtime to get all the changes done, and I believe the week the movie came out, they went out of business. So super sad. And this seems to be kind of a recurring thing, is that people work really hard to appease fans, and then they end up not having enough money to stay open. So so let's get into it. So let's see, when did the trailer for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie come out? Do you remember the day? Because I remember the day it came out.
I don't remember the day, but I remember the complete shock and also bittersweetness I had with the movie. The bitter part was what you're going to talk about, but the sweet part I had was it was just great to see Jim Carrey again and bringing to life a role I never would have thought would have been. It's as official as you can get for a kid's video game. Yeah, and they made it. They played like Dr. Robotnik in that trailer. At least was the reason to watch the movie.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's kind of one of the things I want to get into, and the fan reaction is just like, I don't think this was ever going to be a good movie. And no. I don't know that. So the trailer came out in April of 2019, and the reaction was not great. I think a lot of people had issues with the appearance of Sonic. And I think a lot of it was his teeth. His teeth were he had like individual teeth, which was really weird. Because you play the video games and, watch the cartoons, and it's just a straight line. But he has all these individual teeth. He looks like too human. And there's like way too much detail on the fur. So anyways, people lost it. And so then the movie ended up getting delayed. But it's just like that seemed to be people's issue with the movie, and not that the movie itself, the plot and all that looked really bad. Like I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to it, but it just did not seem like it was gonna be a good movie, like objectively a good movie.
In your defense of that though, has there ever been a good movie that was based off a video game or a live action version of any movie or game that's come out? And I'm talking about really bad movies like Dragon Ball Z Evolution or Dragon Ball Evolution or whatever it's called. There are so many things about that movie that I just make me cringe to this day. And of course you have the cult classics that are still terrible, but like the Mortal Kombat movies with Jean-Claude Van Damme, like
yeah, I'm looking through right now a list of films that are based off of video games, and it's great because one of the metrics you can sort by is the rating of the movie, the audience rating of the movie, and there are only 4 movies out of that's easily like 30 that break 50% as far as audience score, which is hilarious to me.
I'm curious, what are the 4?
So they are recent, so I'm gonna have you take a guess at what you think the 4 are. They have all come out. The oldest one came out in 2018.
Okay, so are these all based on video games?
Yeah, these are all video game properties. One of them, you might be able to argue against it being video game, but
interesting. Okay, my first guess is going to be Assassin's Creed.
No, that has an 18%. That's another one I have not seen, but I love the Assassin's Creed series, so I was pretty psyched, but the trailer did not look that great. Because I guess apparently he spends most of the movie out of the, what do they call it? That they go into.
He's not even in the.
Yeah, whatever that area is called. Like, yeah, most of it is outside of that, I guess.
Wow.
I love Fassbender, but man,
they got fans in the door just to screw him over. Sounds familiar. Dragon Ball Evolution.
Oh man, that's so bad.
The best anime or cartoon movies are the ones that keep the same medium. Like I would argue that as a kid, I went to go watch Pokemon 2000. Granted, I was 10 years old. I was really into Pokemon, but I didn't feel betrayed because there wasn't some kid who betrayed. It's fine because I'm thinking about Avatar now, and that's just a whole nother.
We can't talk about that.
I would have specified The Last Airbender, not the Blue Alien Pocahontas movie.
Oh yeah, with the
just basically blue aliens and Pocahontas. Like I don't even know why people love that movie so much. It's really just Disney's Pocahontas set to blue aliens.
Yeah, with the tail sex where they wrap their tails.
I mean, you could spell it every time. Guy's a soldier, wants to decimate this thing for a company, falls in love with a native, becomes one of the natives, he gets found out, they abandon him, they accept him, he fights back, they win, everybody's happy, blue animals. Okay, cool.
You just nailed the entire plot to Avatar. That was wonderful. Okay, so it was not Assassin's Creed.
Okay, I can't think of any other ones, honestly. Not Aeon Flux, but Ghost in a Shell wasn't a game originally.
No. So that one doesn't count. That was a bad movie. I did see that in theaters.
I wasn't going to watch it.
So the first one is the 2018 Tomb Raider.
Oh.
With shoot, what is her name?
Gal Gadot?
Alicia Vikander. And I think she's married to Michael Fassbender, funny enough. So they've both been in video game movies. So the next one is Rampage with The Rock, which I saw like 20 minutes of on a cruise, and I don't know. I didn't think it was good, but
see, I think I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's definitely a forgettable one. I remember playing those video games a lot though as a kid. The Rampage games, they're super fun.
Well, that's the thing. You take a game that has a couple rounds of destroying a building and want to make a movie out of it. That's not.
Yeah, like where's the plot?
There's not enough movies. There's nothing there.
And funny enough, the third movie. The video game, I don't know that there was enough there for a movie, but they kind of made it work. Detective Pikachu, which I think had a lot to do with Ryan Reynolds' performance as Pikachu. Have you seen that movie?
Didn't watch it. I didn't know that was a game, actually.
Yeah, so I think back in the day, and then they also made a mobile game for it too. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. I was pretty impressed. You can tell in the production that the people that are making it are fans, because there's a lot of Pokemon you would not expect to see. Some like B and C tier Pokemon show up, so that's pretty cool.
I think the one backing factor behind that as well would be the fact that Nintendo doesn't want people messing with their properties in a way they're not gonna enjoy.
Yeah, it's a big risk to take, and I think Nintendo, after the events of, I think probably the first video game movie, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, I think maybe they're starting to learn that they need to be careful about which properties they're giving away for films.
Yeah, and in the Pokemon franchise alone, I could see why they would be more involved in making sure that didn't become absolute trash. Like I would have assumed they had a lot of sign off on what did and did not get portrayed there. Yeah.
Well, and Ryan Reynolds is like a marketing god, and I think that helps a lot. He's just like, and you can tell he was pretty invested in it. So I think when he's really invested in a series, he ends up doing some of his best work, like Deadpool.
I mean, he got people to want to play Toon Blast.
Yeah,
who would just be dazzled with Ryan Reynolds.
He made it work, man. His gin ads are fantastic too. They're pretty great.
I love that he used the lady from the Peloton ads for his gin ad.
Oh, that is so perfect.
It was such a great thing because marketing is one of those things where I know I could be really good at if I wanted to take advantage of people and their emotions to sell whatever bullshit product I had.
Yeah, that's what the best of them do.
That's why I don't go into marketing or sales. And I apologize for people who are in marketing and sales who want to do it honestly and do their very best. This is not targeted at you.
Yeah, but there are good ones out there.
The other ones, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's the Ryan Reynolds of the world. They're good marketers.
Yeah, most people were just psych majors who were like,
Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah, so, okay. To your point, there's not very many good video game movies. But it sounds like the Sonic the Hedgehog movie is our fourth movie that went over 50%.
It went over 50%?
Yeah, it's actually, of the ones I'm looking at here. Now, these are Rotten Tomato scores, which are always they're kind of iffy. So like, I hate this gets back into marketing. I hate in an ad for a film when they say that it has a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, because that does not mean what everyone thinks it means. Because I think what everyone assumes is that when they hear 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, everybody gave it a 10 out of 10, which is that is not what that means. A 100% on Rotten Tomatoes means that everyone has given it at least a 6 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah, so literally a movie could be a 6 out of 10 and be 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's still impressive that Sonic the Hedgehog has that score. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, 64% of people thought it was an average movie. So yeah, I wonder like how many hours and how much money was spent to redesign the look of this character, if it was going to make a difference with the box office. Like,
that's a good point.
I mean, I think a lot of like, how many of these people that were outraged and tweeting at, who's the guy that was playing Sonic, Ben Schwartz, like how many of those people that were like rage tweeting at this guy about how it's not made for the fans, like how many of those people actually went to go see it after they made these changes?
Well, I mean, that's a whole nother topic entirely, because how many people spend time online rage tweeting everything who don't do anything else but rage tweet just for the sake of it?
Yeah.
How many people will sit at home and just get off on responding and not actually getting involved with having a real perspective or opinion against something?
Yeah,
and
maybe if we get fans, we'll get those types of reactions.
I'm sure we'll get them now. I'm sure. I mean, because I'm not Instagram famous by any means or standards, and I'm amazed at some of the responses I get sometimes, just from people in passing, and I'm like, oh, okay.
What kind of responses do you get?
What happened the other day? Someone said that I was working on a lift that I hadn't really done a lot of, and I wanted to max out on it. And it was a sloppy lift. I will 100% own up to that. But the person commented, they're like, "Ugh, this is terrible. He's gonna hurt himself. What a garbage lift." And I was like, "Yeah, I know. Thank you."
Oh my gosh.
But it was like, if you are that concerned, then help me improve.
Right.
And I just was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm not really interested in following negativity, so if that's how we're gonna be about it.
The blind hate is not productive. If you have an issue with something, provide feedback. I think most creators are open to receiving that, and maybe they agree and they want to make that change too.
I think for the fans who did go see the movie, because that's who we're talking about, fans, actual people who get involved with stuff. Yeah. I would want to think that they went and saw it and felt better. When I saw the first version of Sonic, he did, from my opinion and what I would expect him to look too anthropomorphic.
Yeah, he looks way too human.
Yeah, I think the thing that caught me more, and it's funny because I didn't think about the teeth at all. What caught my attention was that his eyes were actually separated. And that's what caught me off guard a little bit.
That was a huge criticism as well. Is that so? For those that are not Sonic fans, his eyes they're attached, so there's no bridge of a nose. The eyes are both of his eyes are all one piece, and with this version of the film, they had them separated. So I think to a lot of people that was kind of odd.
And it's an argument too with Pikachu. You can make him realistic rather easily, just because you can add the fur. His eyes are already separated. He is more like a real-ish animal. It's difficult taking a cartoon and making it 3D and making it interact with the real world. I think, okay, question. This is not based off a video game, but I think it was one of the best 3D crossover interact with real life movies that exists. And someone just brought up to me recently, if you had to pick from that genre, what would you pick or think of?
Oh, interesting. Do you have an answer right now?
I do,
because I need.
There's
two.
Go. Okay. The first one I think of is Space Jam.
Okay.
because that was like, you as a kid, you have like real life people interacting with like nothing, because in reality it's like these cartoons that are coming to life. And of course the classic Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, that was where I was headed, was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I was not that movie is so perfect. And I think there's a few sequences, and did you watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure, the movie?
The newer one?
When did it come out? It came out in 1985. So
okay.
It was the one with his big red bike.
Yes, I did watch that. If I did, I forgot about it, honestly, actually.
His bike gets stolen. It was actually directed by Tim Burton. But I think there's some sequences that have that kind of feel to them. Yeah, man. Space Jam. We're getting a new Space Jam. Do you think fan reactions when that trailer is going to come out, is that going to change things?
So I've been heard about this being teased for a while. I don't know. See, the advantage Space Jam has is that it appeals to two separate parties sometimes. So when the first Space Jam came out, it attracted a lot of people who were into comics and Bugs Bunny, and people who were into basketball. Those two didn't really mix before. Yeah,
it's such an odd mix. Like that that shouldn't work on all fronts. That should not work. Like, because the Bugs Bunny crowd, I mean, that was obviously pulling the kids. And then I guess the way it's working is it's using the parents and the kids. So the parents are going to want to go see that movie because their favorite basketball player, Michael Jordan's on the screen, and the kids are going to go because they want to see Lolo Rabbit in her cutoff shorts.
This is not, no.
It has to be talked about, Zach.
Okay, fine. We'll have a whole episode on furries.
Yeah, I mean, that had to have been the start of it, right? I think there's a lot of talk of that, but...
that's a good point. When did that start? When did people separate that in their minds? And it's true, Lolo Rabbit was hypersexualized.
Oh, incredibly.
And that's the thing. Between Space Jam and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, obviously I'm a Jessica Rabbit kind of guy, because
same.
I don't care about actual rabbits.
yeah, same, dude.
Nothing ever will pull me towards, like, God, I just fucking shuddered. I'm sorry.
It's terrible.
I'm not kink shaming anyone.
No.
However,
it is an odd thought, though. Like, there's a movie review guy that I watched that is a furry, and I think he's made the argument before that Space Jam is kind of responsible for some of the furry generation.
And it's funny because I never thought about it till right now. And I pictured the scene where she's walking in for the first time, and I was like,
yeah,
that's right.
They cut to that shot from behind her at like a low angle, pointed up to like accentuate her butt. It's very odd. It's very odd to be sexualizing a very much rabbit character. It's weird.
Huh.
Yeah,
well,
so this
fan reactions. How many fans had a reaction to that commentary of Calvin saying overly sexualized rabbit butts? I'm pretty sure they're going to be like, oh wow, I need to go.
Yeah, I gotta go.
Go yiff.
Yeah, so I mean, the Space Jam 2 is like it's LeBron James now. So like, what if he has a hot mic moment, or he's got kind of a hot and cold relationship, I think, with the president. Like, what if the president tweets out something about how awful Space Jam 2 is going to be, and then a bunch of people don't go see it in response to that? Is that possible?
I think if it is possible, all LeBron has to do to counter that is just tweet a picture of the president playing tennis.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh man. I wish this was like a more visual medium and we could pull that up. I'll do it in the YouTube video.
I think it's funny too, because my point earlier for saying it brought two different groups together, I wasn't referring to the children and the parents. I was thinking of fans who grew up with comics and fans who grew up with basketball. And those traditionally, just like we talked about in episode 1, didn't mix. You didn't have necessarily fans of basketball who were open nerds. And now it's cool to do it. You have LeBron James. You have like, I don't watch basketball, so apparently I don't know the cast of the movie, but you have a mix now where it's open and okay to be nerds and say, oh yeah, I love Bugs Bunny as a kid, but I also like to hoop. And it's like, you didn't really have that back in the day.
Right.
And I will say Looney Tunes was more acceptable as an American media than anime was. I mean,
absolutely. Still the case. Still the case.
I mean, it's because you like over-sexualizing rabbits. But hey, you know what? I can't even make that argument. Not Japan.
Oh
but
my
anime,
gosh, yeah.
Anime's got some... There is
a small list of anime that I can get my wife to watch for that very reason.
There's a lot that I stay away from for that reason.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's I think we talked about it in the first episode. Or no, that got scrapped. I forgot. There's a never to be aired episode of This Podcast is for Nerds. Where we talked about anime.
It's before we had a name even, actually.
Yeah, I forget what we were calling it at the top. Or no, I think it was Have a Drink, I think was the original name.
Yeah, that's right. We actually literally went to Calvin's house, had some beers, ordered food, and like watched movies at that night.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I actually have, for later on in the episode, my shout-out restaurant, because I've been wanting to have this place for a minute now. And that will be the next place that we get food from when we can actually leave our houses.
Yeah,
so
I hope that's coming up soon. Getting stir crazy. So yeah, I think we're good on the Space Jam talk. Are there any other movies you can think of that have been greatly impacted by fan reaction?
You know, I'm going to go from a general standpoint and say that any movie that's come out in the American market that's been based off a video game has been, just like you said earlier, that they've been panned horribly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things, too, I would say, that the fans have a right to be pissed about it. Like, I'm going to go back to Dragon Ball Evolution. Nothing about that was remotely Dragon Ball, except for I guess they took the main character's hair and spiked it up, put some mousse in it at one point. But you know,
they did.
Goku never went to high school. Goku never drove a car. There were no Dodge Challengers in anything. And I love, or hate rather, how you can have a cast that is culturally proper and then have the main character who's just a white dude. Avatar.
You're right. Avatar. Exactly.
Woo. I don't know where that came in.
So have you actually seen it? The Dragon Ball Evolution. Like, have you watched it all the way through?
I haven't. No, I would never put that in.
Okay. That would never make the cut.
No.
In Zach's movie night.
Never. No.
I can't blame you. I almost feel bad for the cast because something tells me they weren't fans, and I'm sure they got a lot of hate and they did not understand where it was all coming from.
I will say that I am proud of. Here's a good fan reaction that is worth noting. Fans who have seen the big budget Hollywood films destroy something they loved and decided to take it into their own hands and fix themselves. There's a lot of live action YouTube videos where fans have made their own versions and they're great. And again, shout out to Team 4-Star, but there's even some live action versions that actually show the characters, in the air, fighting, battling back and forth, and at least trying, because they love the material, like you've mentioned before.
Yeah.
I would say that it's understood that, or I would say the X-Men franchise is a good, that wasn't based on a video game. Darn it. I was gonna say that's one that definitely has a lot of fan influence, but that comes more from comics. And the comic fans, I feel like since comics have been around longer and there have been a lot more of a following for influence and people taking studios taking note from comics, there's been a lot more fan interaction over what's right and what's wrong through comic-based movies. Because I can only think of a couple video game-based movies off the top of my head. I will say that there were some animated movies that were awesome, like the Persona 5 animated movies is pretty cool, and that's based off the game.
I'm not seeing those.
It's on Netflix.
Oh,
check it out. It's
Shout out
really
to
good.
Netflix. It's
Netflix.
up and coming service. You probably have not heard of it.
I remember one time my boss. I worked at I guess you can call it a competing, or it was competing. I worked at a Blockbuster. That was my first job. That was my first job out of high school.
I love Blockbuster.
I'm definitely going to age myself. I was my first job out of high school, and I remember when Netflix was getting started, and my boss was basically saying, yeah, this service isn't going to go anywhere. We got this. We cornered the market. We're Blockbuster. We're going to eat them. And I just look at it now, and I'm like, huh. Who would have thought? And
you know the story about Netflix and Blockbuster, right?
No.
Oh, so when Netflix was coming up, they approached Blockbuster to have them buy the service, and Blockbuster completely rejected them, and they were so stubborn. They're like, we don't need you. And then I don't know if you were working there at the time, but they launched their own DVD mailing service similar to Netflix, and it completely failed.
Yeah, I was actually there for that. I remember one time I actually did see a Blockbuster box that we had somewhere, and I was like, cool, a red box, but it's from Blockbuster. And I think at the time too, there were a lot of competing systems that were going online only, like GameFly, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah, and that's still going, I think.
Is it
not.
Really?
It's. I think it is. But it's just too niche for me. I don't play enough to justify paying a monthly fee to have some access to video games.
I mean, I do pay a monthly fee, but I have Xbox Pass, so.
Yeah, you're right. I guess I do. I do pay a monthly fee. Yeah, I forgot I do Game Pass. So
yeah, we have a niche.
Yeah. It's just it's Xbox, and it's not physical media, I guess.
So yeah, I think in my mind, fans have a lot of sway because if you think about it, yeah, there are going to be some really terrible movies and have been terrible movies that have come out, but fans do have sway in that if they didn't think anyone was going to watch it, they wouldn't do it. I think when some of these movies come out, though, they're targeted at people who have never played the games or never read the books, never read the comics, and that's where the money really comes from. Because I remember when the Watchmen movie came out, and I had friends who read the book and knew everything about it, and I didn't know what that was, and I went in and watched a very awkward movie for 3 hours, and I was like, okay, this is just a story of not Batman and some blue dude hanging dong. That's cool, whatever.
Yeah.
And some sort of murder mystery and some other stuff I didn't really care much for. But visually, it was a cool movie because the guy from 300 did it.
You said you didn't read the comic, right?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
But my friends who went with me who did were beyond upset.
Yeah, they definitely changed the ending from the comic.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I assume that's what they were upset about. What were they upset about?
They were just mad about everything, and I was just laughing because I went for the midnight viewing. The movie didn't end until 3, and I had to be at work at 5. So,
oh my gosh!
I was like, I'm gonna make this a good time. I don't really care. What would you like to see, or what would have you observed in fan reactions that you think is positive towards getting the result they want, and what do you feel has been negative towards not helping at all?
Oh man, I've got 2 big ones that I can think of right now that are negative. I might need to think about some positive ones. So I'll start with the negative ones. And so this gets back into anime, so you can speak to this as an anime fan. Did you watch the Death Note animated series? You know exactly where I'm going with this, but I need to set it up.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bust out laughing.
No, it's great. I love it. It's the perfect reaction.
I didn't watch it. I'm actually not a fan of Death Note. I tried.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, Light Yagami. The whole concept of that show made me laugh. Like I was like, this is whatever.
Very interesting. Okay, everyone I've talked to, it's like probably in their top 10 of all time.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they were the same ones who like Sword Art Online and
no. Sorry to all the Sword Art Online fans. I hate that anime so much.
I'm not sorry, because everyone who tries to tell me how it's the greatest anime of all time, I do not understand.
No, it is not. I'd rather watch a dot hack than watch a Sword Art Online.
No. So, oh man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah. So
I'd have to, you know what? There's a lot of isekai anime right now, and that's what everyone's like going crazy over. My favorite isekai is Overlord, because it's
that's one that's on my Hulu list. I need to get through that. Yeah.
You need to watch it, and also Isekai, Overlord for sure. If I had to go with a slower paced one that's like Dot Hack, because Dot Hack I just didn't care for it. Log Horizon is my alternative to that one.
Oh yeah, Log Horizon I think is probably the best of that premise.
Yeah. So sorry guys, but
sorry. Sword Art Online is not good. That is my opinion.
Death Note was definitely one of the ones that I watched the highlight reel for. Shout out to Watch Mojo for keeping me up on anime I'm never gonna watch.
Oh man, Watch Mojo, the best. Yeah, my relationship with it. So my first, and I think anyone that still watches anime and is in our age group, late 20s. They got their start with Dragon Ball Z,
of course.
The Cartoon Network dub, sorry.
Funimation and Bruce Faulkner shout out forever. I know people are mad because they said Bruce Faulkner's music isn't the greatest, but I argue that all of the recent Dragon Ball shows and movies are better when they put the Funimation music dub over it, as well as Faulkner's music over it. Sorry, live with it.
No, I don't think that's a hot take. It might be, maybe. Not to me, though. So yeah, I watched that and I watched Inuyasha. Those were like my two when I was growing up, and then I fell out of it and then got back into it in high school, so mid to late 2000s, and Death Note was like the first thing I got into. So I have a fond relationship with Death Note, and that was the first anime. My wife does not watch anime at all, and so that was the first anime I showed her, and she like was so hooked on that show. First half is way better than the second half. Spoils for a probably 15-year-old anime at this point, but once L dies, that show goes to hell in a handbasket. So that went on a tangent, but the bad fan reaction that I was going to bring up was, so Netflix came out with a live action Death Note film. So they took a 36 episode anime.
Oh man.
So that's 18 hours worth of content and dropped it into I think it's a 2-hour movie. Let me confirm that.
That's actually longer than I thought it was.
An hour. It's an hour 40. So they cut a lot. And so it was directed by Adam Wingard. Probably not a household name unless you're a big horror film fan. He is known for doing the VHS movies, which if you have not seen those, I highly recommend it if you're into horror. Low budget horror too. It is basically it is an anthology film, so there's like segments similar to ABCs of Death. But they're pretty incredible, and he did a few. He did segments in the first 2 VHS movies, and they're pretty good. And then he did his other big one was You're Next, which was I think it was a home invasion horror movie, which I heard was pretty good. And I think it has kind of like a cult following. So it was directed by him, and the movie was not good. It was a bad movie. The only redeeming aspect to me was Willem Dafoe. He was great, but he was not in it enough. And as much as I think some of his quirks were weird, I think Lakeith Stanfield did a great job as L. And just shout out to Lakeith Stanfield in general. He's probably my favorite actor right now. That guy is just absolutely killing it in everything he does. I recommend Sorry to Bother You. Last year Uncut Gems came out, and that was amazing. He was really good in that, and he was also amazing in Knives Out, even though he had a pretty small role.
I can't wait to see that movie, actually. I need to see Knives Out, yeah.
Oh, dude, we need to do... So I think one of our future episodes should just be like on murder mystery films, because I think Knives Out is like, it's going to be bringing the murder mystery film back to popularity. It is such a good movie.
I'm down.
Yeah. All right. So yeah,
I will say a quick preview for that is a movie that came from a video game that everyone seemed to hate, but I loved it so much because of how campy it was, and that is it's not called Guess Who. It's basically, it had I have to do some research. Continue on.
it's not Clue, right?
Is it? That's the one with
yeah, that where they like. Yeah, it's the board game Clue. Yeah, that's an amazing movie, and that's certainly something we need to talk about. And even like the Murder on the Orient Express. I'm not crazy about the new one, but still worthy discussion because they're making more of them, and they're making more Knives Out movies too, which is great. So we're getting more Daniel Craig as like a murder mystery guy, which is cool.
I just love one of the lines in that movie. I can't spoil it, but it's towards the end. The last line the detective says.
Of Clue or of
Clue,
Knives
yeah.
Out? Oh, yeah.
And I want to use that every day when I leave for work and just go.
We'll get into a spoiler cast for Clue in the future. We won't spoil it here.
And yet, if those of you who want to know what the last line is, don't go Google it. Go watch the movie.
Yeah, go watch the movie. It is actually really good. I would and speaking to like video games becoming movies, and there's not enough content there to make it a movie. I mean, it's a board game, like it's a murder mystery board game that lasts like 20 minutes. Like to turn that into an excellent 2-hour film is pretty impressive. So, and
I think the merit of that is it didn't try to take itself too seriously. It was just like we're here to it's gonna have fun, and it's just like it was just great. Yeah, great cast, great movie. Sorry. See, nerd talk strikes again.
This is what the show's about. So the Death Note movie, absolutely bad. Really bad movie. Received mixed reviews.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And so when the movie came out, believe it or not, fans did not react well. And I think some of the concerns were valid, and it's an issue we're seeing, and it's something you talked about earlier with the Dragon Ball movie. I think a lot of people had issue with the cast being completely white, and it's an anime, so it's set in Japan. There's like no Japanese actors in that movie, really. So that's one of the issues. I think another is just like tonally, it feels like it was written by a film student that works at Hot Topic and is like still feels pretty edgy. It just did not like fit the tone of the anime. So fans did not react well, and unfortunately it's horrible. Adam Wingard does not deserve what he received for this. He made a bad movie, but there's a lot of people that worked on this. He received tons of death threats over this movie.
I'm assuming that wasn't a pun.
Oh, wow. Was not intentional at all. Wow. Man, I almost want to cut that.
You can't.
No, I can't. I have to leave it. That pun not intended at all. He received tons of death threats over Death Note.
Which is hilarious. It was just from a bunch of fans who wouldn't do a damn thing anyway.
These are a bunch of nerds that are sitting in their mom's basement and just want to be little keyboard heroes for their anime friends. So, yeah, it's just like atrocious. Another one I can think of is how big of a Star Wars fan are you, Zach? We've not talked about Star Wars on this podcast yet.
Well, I'll say this. I grew up watching the original trilogy, and that is pretty much where I stayed. I kept up with so there's so many stories that came off of that, and I didn't realize that that was just a segment of the story that George Lucas had actually been working on. So I actually took some time about a month and a half ago, because my son is really into it, to go back and not just watch the movies, but watch a kind of an overview of like the entire universe of Star Wars, including the books.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to go read all the books because it takes way too long, so I just went through, I found a guide that was like 2 hours long on YouTube, and I watched it because it filled in everything and how it all plays together. And I was like, wow, this universe is massive.
Yeah.
So I would say I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm also like, I think I'm aligned with most Star Wars fans where we don't like Jar Jar Binks, and that's pretty much where.
Oh yeah, I mean he is a and you know worth discussing Jar Jar Binks, the actor that portrayed him, like that was his big break, and I highly recommend everyone go check out. He did a YouTube video discussing what his life was like after his performance as Jar Jar Binks. And I think people that may have been really critical of him online need to watch that, because he almost killed himself over the response that he received from that movie. So while, you know, you can hate a performance, maybe go easy on the people that are doing those performances, because he didn't write that racist ass character. George Lucas did, and made it a stereotype of black people. I mean, that was not that actor's decision. He's an up and coming actor. He's going to take any, you know, big film he can, and Star Wars is arguably one of the biggest franchises in the world. Seems like a no-brainer to take that. So yeah, my other bad reaction was so you haven't seen the new trilogy, 7, 8, and 9?
No, there really wasn't a point for me to. Yeah. It looked like, and we had a lot of flack for this, and that's fine. To me, it went the same trend of. So I'll split it into two things. On a positive note, there were a lot of positive trends and changes that shows the growth of the series and the wanting to include fans in bringing in the Star Wars family, because there's tons of different things that came about through that I thought were awesome and progressive. I'll say that. Yeah. On the opposite side of that, I really didn't want another angsty teen romance story about some bad boy who found his heart. I don't care.
Yeah, it didn't really happen that way until the last one. But yeah, I get it. It's so episode 7 feels very tonally similar to A New Hope, which I think a lot of people say. So I think a lot of people have issue with that. It's just a retread of A New Hope. But so episode 8 came out, and there was a new character introduced. Her name is Rose, and I just had her actress page up, played by Kelly Marie Tran. And this was like Star Wars, like was her big break. This is like one of the first huge things she did, and so people did not react well to her character, and there was a lot of racist vitriol thrown at her because she is of Asian descent. And yeah, so just like, she hasn't really done much acting since. I think she's a little hesitant to be in the spotlight anymore, which I can't really say I blame her. And the crappy thing is, like, I think episode 9 is one of those things it made changes because of fan reaction, because she is a major character in episode 8, and I think she has one line in episode 9, and it is a background line. So I just think that's really sad. Yeah.
Now, do you feel like that was more of a fan reaction, or more of the actor saying, hey, I want to be a part of this. This is fantastic, but I also am kind of scared to. Because how much do actors really get support as far as, and I don't know this is like a general question. Yeah. I don't know how much actors really get support in what they do afterwards. And speaking to the Jar Jar Binks character, and I didn't pick up on, there's a lot of things that I don't pick up on when it comes to like racist overtones, and especially when it comes to stuff like that. Like this is my first actually hearing that there were the accusations of that character being racist. I just thought he was annoying as hell.
Certainly annoying.
I had no concept of that. And I want to say too, before we get too far into it, just to echo what you said earlier, it's okay to be pissed if something you don't like is portrayed a certain way. That's fine. We all have that. But there is no lower form of bullshit than to target someone's life or make them or disparage them from a place of such sheer hatred because you didn't like the outcome. And not only that, but to not have the balls to do it in person, I have a huge problem with that. Like that, you shouldn't do it in person because it's rude. But the internet has spawned a whole generation of people who feel comfortable doing it behind their computers.
Yeah, because there's like hardly any repercussions for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. So before I get off on a different rant about that, this is not what this is supposed to be about. So I'm gonna focus up. But yeah, I actually didn't know that. I didn't know that at all, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I, during all of this, I could not come up with a positive fan reaction. So I will toss to you.
Positive fan reactions. I will say, alluding to what I mentioned earlier, when fans decide to take it upon themselves to create something that they really enjoyed and something that they know that at the heart of it they would like. A good example of that, unfortunately not coming from video games because I don't have a reference for this in particular, when the X-Men franchise, or even how Marvel Studios has reinvented the Marvel Universe even, because in the beginning, I don't know if you remember seeing the first Incredible Hulk movie.
The one with Eric Bana?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, but I don't remember much about it. I remember being pretty bored as a kid watching it.
It's a very slow-paced movie for something that's the Incredible Hulk. And I loved when that movie was redone, and it was done by Ed Norton, which was fantastic. And I didn't realize that he wasn't going to be in the universe. But I think Mark Ruffalo did a great job continuing on with that. I think what fans want is something that's going to make them continue on with what they grew up with and not destroy an origin story of something they didn't. Like, they want to be seeing something, show something new. And I think there's so much with Marvel crossover, this ability for fans to come in who are now in the roles to make the difference, or at least, say, hey, this is how we make this as accurate as possible. I mean, let's look at the Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't even know they existed.
Oh man, that is like the best. That is the best thing that has ever happened to Marvel, in my opinion. Is like they took, and it's just like it should not have worked. The director had like a really weird film history for making a like kids superhero movie, and then they give him like the F tier Marvel characters, and it makes it arguably the best of all of them. Like, I fell in love with a raccoon and a talking tree. It's pretty impressive.
Vin Diesel as a talking tree.
Yeah, I always forget that. I literally always forget. They like change his voice so much that it's unbelievable.
I laugh too because if you remember back to the 90s, there were a bunch of superhero movies that came out that were very Superman-esque, of the original Superman movies, and these were Marvel propertied movies that were just not good. I would love, though, if they remade Steel. Oh, actually, that wasn't Marvel. I'm sorry. I need to re-speak. If they remade Steel, which was a DC movie, and they had Shaq in it.
Oh, man. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
But Shaq's everywhere. Shaq is a really busy dude.
He is killing it in the commercial game. He is in every commercial. That guy is making bank.
He's a DJ, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's a great DJ. He's like, he's super fun. We could get into all the weird people you would not expect to be DJs.
Well, I forgot, too, that he went multi-platinum with him when he was a rapper.
Oh, did he? He went. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I didn't know he went multi-platinum.
Yeah, I think he had. I think he put out 3 albums. All 3 of them were platinum.
How much do you think this guy is worth?
Yeah, it depends on how he manages money during his career.
I guess so. I'm curious, like what over his entire career, what he's made.
I just know that he's someone I looked to, and this is a total tangent, but he stays busy and he doesn't shy, or at least I don't know if he shies away. I don't know Shaq. If I met Shaq, that'd be the only human I've met in a while that's bigger than I am.
Yeah, you're a big boy.
He He's a commentator on ESPN. He is a chairman of the board for Papa John's. He's in tons of commercials. He DJs. Shaq's just all over the place. So if Shaq doesn't have time to play steel, that's fine. I'm okay with that, Shaq. Idris Elba to do it. We need a steel movie. We need a steel movie. We need a Static Shock movie.
Oh, I am dying for a static. Oh, can we get Lakeith Stanfield as Static Shock? I would be so happy with that. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
See, now we're gonna start a whole thing of like we're fans who want something to happen, and we're gonna try and get a Steel and a Static Shock movie made.
Yeah, I'm gonna start a what is that website where people sign the petition? Change.org.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we can get a Lakeith Stanfield to agree to a Static Shock movie because I would love that.
I have a question too, and this is more about a TV series rather than a movie. But have you watched any of the Netflix Marvel universe TV shows?
Yeah, so I watched the first and full all of season 1 of Daredevil. Really liked it.
Okay.
Got through about half of season 2 of Daredevil and just couldn't really get into it. Watched about an episode of what was it? Is it Iron Fist? Is that the guy's name?
Yeah, when it comes to like portrayals and how we talked about like not really enjoying stuff like that. Again, I don't know the actor, and if I was given a role and wanted to do it to my heart extent or whatever, I would sure as heck hop in and do whatever character.
Man, to be a part of the Marvel universe, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think what you need to have going into that is you need to really have a strong support core group of people that you listen to and have your best interests at heart, as opposed to, keeping up with fans or thing like that.
Yeah, so I watched about an episode of that one. I watched Luke Cage. I think I watched almost all of the first season. I dug that. The music was really good. And the guy who plays him, great actor. And then my favorite of all of them was Jessica Jones. But I ran into this issue, like once they came out with Defenders, I just didn't have an interest in watching them all work together. I liked them separate. And then like as the seasons of the individual shows came out, there was like context that was missing because I hadn't watched Defenders. So I just stopped watching. So
yeah, I think that's when it starts to get a little muddled, because I was reading through, I had the X-Men Ultimate book that came out when I was like 13, and I had that thing for a long time. There's so much crossover that I didn't realize amongst the X-Men team about where they went off to go join other teams for a certain period of time, where they lost their powers and they gained their powers. They had different powers, and the universe for both Marvel and DC, and also just smaller comics as well, is so broad that, oh, okay, I have one. What's a video game that plays like a movie that you felt was true to form to its source material?
Oh, a video game that plays like a movie and was true to its source material. So the video game has to have come from some other medium?
Yes.
Ooh.
Putting a little reversal on it towards the end of the podcast here.
Yeah, this is cool. I like this question. We talked about it last episode, but I'm a huge fan of the first season of The Walking Dead. I know you're not a big zombie guy. And I've read the comics, and I feel like they kind of nailed the tone. Okay. So that's the first one that comes to mind. What's yours?
I'm going to say the Injustice series.
Oh, 1 and 2. Yeah, what a great fighting game.
It was a great fighting game, and the cutscenes in between, it played like I actually went, and I'll confess this, there's some games that I played that I enjoyed more just watching the cutscenes, and I went back and actually watched cutscene only cuts of it, and it plays like a movie. The other one I would have to say that I think doesn't have source material, I believe this started off as a game and spread to other mediums, Halo 4.
Oh, interesting.
If you felt watch like Halo 4 as a movie, it's great.
Interesting. That's a great game. It's fantastic. I've not played it since it came out, but that's one I'd have to revisit, because I really liked the premise of like Cortana is like corrupted, and so he's got to like fix that. And I don't know. I thought it was really. And that was like the first one made by the 363 studio, I think.
We're gonna have a whole episode talking about our favorite cosplay, and one I thought of that was amazing was Mystique from the Marvel movies.
Oh yeah,
all blue. And sorry, I'm gonna be more clear. The original Mystique, not the X-Men First Class and on Mystique. And not because of any disparagement against the actresses themselves. I personally didn't like the First Class run of movies that went to Days of Future Past because, as a comic fan, for those movies, the storyline was all wrong, and it made me kind of pissed. So, nothing against the actors or the development crew. You guys did a great job. It was a great visual movie. My problem was storyline and like things that didn't exist that they put in. And that is my point of that.
And you know, we're at about an hour, so I think we're good to wrap things up. But let's do our shout out to our local business. Do you want to start, Zach?
Sure, yeah, totally. So my shout out to the local business, and one that I am very excited to have the privilege to go visit again. Silvio's Organic Pizza in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Their mushroom and truffle pizza on this light, flaky crust is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, that is a great shout out, because I've not been there in I don't know how long. It's been a while, so now I kind of want to go.
Yeah, we're getting it next time we record at your house.
Absolutely. Oh, and I see now that they deliver through Postmates, DoorDash. Ooh, that might happen.
What is happening?
That might happen while I work this week.
If it is, I don't care what I have to wear. I'm coming to your house. I will shower. I will shower at your house and like detox my clothes.
I trust you. You seem like a clean man.
I do my best.
So my business, I want to shout out Big Ten Burrito. Perfect for a night of drinking. I highly recommend them. They're very cheap, and their queso is absolutely incredible. All right, so something we're going to be trying on this show is what we're tentatively calling Media Club. Every other week, one of us is going to recommend a TV show, movie, anime, book, or video game, and we'll discuss it on the following episode. So next week, we'll be talking about the anime Id Invaded, a recommendation by Zach. The premise of the show: Sakaido is a detective looking to solve the grisly murder of Kairu, a young girl. But solving this case is unlike any other, as this world begins to twist and turn around Sakaido, challenging what he thinks and believes. You can find it on Hulu, Crunchyroll, and Funimation. All right, Zach, do you want to sign us off?
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this time on This Podcast is for Nerds. If you want to know more about what we're going to talk about next time, you have to find out next time on This Podcast is for Nerds. That wasn't Dragon Ball Z, but it's staying in.